I am Diya Mehta, founder of Legal Luxe, and today I will be talking about importance of influencer contracts. Well, in an era where digital marketing strategies are evolving at a rapid pace, influencer marketing has emerged as one of the most effective tools for brand visibility and consumer engagement. However, with this development comes the need for clear legal frameworks and robust contractual agreements. Today, I will be discussing the intricacies of influencer contracts, what they are, why they are necessary, the importance for both influencers and brands, and the key clauses that form the bedrock of these agreements. Well, of course, gone are the days of traditional billboards and celebrity endorsements, as digitalization and social media have changed the landscape of advertising for brands. It has altered the narrative of advertising to create an interactive equation with the consumers, which obviously not only helps in understanding the needs and desires of consumers better, but also promotes the products and services in a way that gratifies them. With the rise of platforms like Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, fashion influencers, and even influencers in general have become a great force in changing the dynamics of advertising. Not only do these individuals have a large number of followers, often in millions, but they also have a huge impact on consumer behavior and their purchasing decisions. However, what is worrisome is that it has blurred the lines between what is a genuine digital content and what is promotional paid content, and consumers are often unable to differentiate between the two. So, obviously, the question that comes is, what are the influencer contracts? At their core, influencer contracts are legally binding agreements that outline the terms and conditions under which an influencer will promote a brand's product or service. These contracts serve to formalize the relationship between a brand and an influencer, ensuring both parties have a clear understanding of their rights, obligations, and expectations. Unlike your traditional endorsement agreements, influencer contracts often include provisions that are tailored to social media platforms, content deliverables, and audience engagement metrics. Now, the most important question is, why do we even need these influencer contracts? The need for influencer contracts arises primarily from the inherent risks and complexities involved in influencer marketing. Without clear terms, there is a high potential for dispute regarding content quality, brand messaging, compensation, IP rights, and even accountability in case of misleading advertisements. These agreements mitigate risk by setting out precise deliverables, deadlines, and legal recourse in case of breaches. Furthermore, influencer contracts ensure compliances with applicable advertising regulation. For instance, to prevent abuse and exploitation of consumer trust, and with an aim to preserve stakeholder interest, the guidelines for influencer advertising in digital media have been formulated by Advertising Standards Council of India. Now, these guidelines provide for a disclosure label like ad, sponsored, collaboration, etc., that all advertisements published by social media influencers or their representatives must carry, that clearly identifies that such content is an advertisement and not a personal opinion of an influencer. A disclosure is required whenever there is a material connection between the advertiser and the influencer. Now, what is material connection? It refers to any connection between the advertiser and the influencer that has the ability to affect the credibility of the representation made by the influencer, and includes, but please mind you, it's not limited to monetary compensation being charged by the influencer, free or discounted products, other perks such as trips or hotel stays, coverage, awards, etc., received by the influencer. Now, subsequent to these guidelines, even the Central Consumer Protection Authority, via its powers under the CPA's Consumer Protection Act 2019, released another set of guidelines for prevention of misleading advertisements and endorsements for misleading advertisements 2022. Now, these guidelines contain general provisions, like even your CPA contain general provisions for prevention of misleading advertisements. The guidelines in particular expand the scope of existing provisions by setting out detailed parameters of advertisements that are permissible or prohibited. Now, what is the importance of these contracts for both influencers and the brands? For influencers in particular, these contracts provide legal protection and financial security. They clarify compensation structures, whether it be flat fees, commissions, or per post payments. The contract also safeguards the influencer's creative autonomy, specify content ownership and usage rights, particularly regarding repurposing content beyond the initially agreed scope. For brands in particular, now the contract is equally crucial as it establishes control over how the brand is represented. Given obviously the reputational risk involved, brand must ensure that influencers adhere to brand guidelines, avoid conflict of interest, align with brand's image and messaging, and also adhere to the guidelines that are out there. Now, the contract also serves as a tool for monitoring performance metrics, allowing brands to assess the return on investment in influencer campaigns. Now, since we have understood the importance of these contracts, there are certain key clauses. So, let us delve into some of the essential clauses that should be included in any well-drafted influencer contract. Coming up first is the scope of work. Now, this clause will outline the deliverables expected from the influencer, such as the type and number of posts, platforms to be used, frequency of content publication. It also includes specific instructions regarding brand mentions, hashtags, and links. Next is compensation and payment terms. This clause specifies the compensation structure, including whether payment is fixed, performance-based, or a hybrid. Additionally, the timings of payments and any contingent conditions for payment is often clearly set out. Next is compensation and payment terms. Now, this clause specifies the compensation structure, including whether payment is fixed, performance-based, or a hybrid. Additionally, your timing of payments and any contingent conditions for payment is all often clearly set out. Now, the third is exclusivity and non-compete. Brands often require that influencers to avoid promoting competing products during the campaign or within a certain time frame. This clause is critical to maintain brand integrity and ensure exclusivity. Then the question of IPR kicks in. So content ownership and IPR is your fourth clause, which is very important as it governs who owns the content created during the campaign. Typically, the influencer retains ownership but grants the brand a license to use, repurpose, or distribute the content as needed. However, some brands may negotiate for ownership, especially if the content is central to their marketing strategy. Then there is morality and termination clause. Given the volatile nature of public perception, morality clause allows brand to terminate contracts if the influencer engages in behavior that could damage the brand's reputation. So termination clauses should also cover breaches of contract, failure to meet deliverables, and force majeure scenarios. Then you have disclosure and compliance. So influencers are often legally obligated to disclose sponsored content under regulation as just mentioned. This clause ensures that influencer complies with relevant advertising laws, safeguarding both the parties from any legal liabilities that might ensue. Then there is indemnity and liability. This clause is crucial for risk management. It determines the extent to which each party will be held liable for breaches, infringement claims, or any other legal disputes arising from the campaign. Now, in case if a dispute does arise, then the governing law and dispute resolution clause. Finally, as any contract, it is essential to include this clause and specify the jurisdiction or venue for dispute resolution, whether through litigation, mediation, or arbitration. So, in closing, influencer contracts are not merely procedural formalities but strategic tools that bridge the gap between creative marketing and legal compliance. They serve to protect the interests of both influencers and brands, ensuring that campaigns run smoothly and are mutually beneficial. As the influence of digital platform continues to grow, the role of well-drafted influencer agreements will only become more vital. So, it is imperative for us as legal professionals to stay ahead of these trends and provide the guidance necessary to navigate this dynamic field. By doing so, we can ensure that influencer marketing remains not only effective but also legally sound and ethically responsible. Thank you, everyone, for your time.